Awakening is an endless loss of what you think you know, like a devastating wave leaving nothing behind except the truth. Awakening is not a path for the faint-hearted. You will feel utterly ordinary. You will fall to your knees again and again. What you think you know will sometimes vanish, leaving you with nothing. Your deepest insights, your most astonishing experiences, your career, all may collapse and shatter. Sometimes, without warning, you'll have to start over again and again and yet again. As I said, this is not a path for the faint-hearted. You will taste the bliss and joy of life, that is certain. One day, you will laugh at the simplicity of life, undoubtedly.
Flow.
Awakening is truly a challenging journey. You will have to surrender your deepest fears, face the darkness within. You will delve into the depths of suffering you never knew existed. You will weep oceans for the wounded child abandoned inside you. You will rage to the heavens, angry at parents, disappointed mentors, lies, and those who weren't there for you when you needed them the most. Some days you will tremble with fear. Some days it will feel as though the ground swallows you whole, only to spit you out. At times you'll think you're nearing the end of the road, only to find yourself back at the damned starting line. At times you will feel like giving up. At times you will feel like you're making no progress. At times you'll curse the day you set foot on this path. Death is a word humans often associate with darkness, grief, decay, and fear. We spend our lives running from, avoiding, and denying the reality that one day we will all die. However, the death discussed in this video is not the typical physical death we fear. This death is a beautiful, precious, inspiring experience that expands your being, brings enlightenment, and offers an unparalleled transformation. This experience is called the death of the ego, and for serious spiritual seekers, it is a critical process to undergo. What is the ego? To understand the death of the ego, we must first understand what the ego truly is. The ego is the concept representing an individual's sense of self. It symbolizes personal awareness of one's thoughts, emotions, desires, and presence in the world. The ego is a mental and biological construct built and protected by the belief that we are all separate entities. As a result of believing we are isolated and separate in life, we suffer greatly. The ego perceives life through the lens of duality. Duality opposes reality and divides life into opposing forces such as love, hate, good, evil, right, wrong, holy, sinful. When we divide life, we suffer. The dualistic ego's outcome is judgment, hatred, blame, alienation, and disharmony. While we accept some things, we reject others. While we love some people, we hate countless others. Instead of unconditionally accepting life in its wholeness, we divide it into experiences, people, beliefs, thoughts, and emotions as acceptable and unacceptable, and thus we suffer. Through separating our awareness from spirit, the dualistic lens we use to view life pushes us into rejecting ourselves. Any thoughts, feelings, sensations, experiences, or beliefs deemed evil, unacceptable, or wrong are suppressed, avoided, and denied. Consequently, we feed our shadow self with piles of anger, depravity, and shame, locking them away. The products of life through the ego are glaringly evident in our world. Depression, anxiety, mental illness, murder, hatred, greed, poverty, war, and environmental destruction reflect our inner suffering. Our inner torment stems from the ego and the belief that it is separate from others and life itself. What is the death of the ego? In truth, the ego can never die. Instead, it can be transcended, allowing us to live consciously without letting the ego dictate our lives. So how can we define the death of the ego? The death of the ego is the experience of transcending the self, the ego, or identity. This experience brings powerful effects on the mind, awakening, inspiration, peace, and unconditional love. The death of the ego is essentially a temporary encounter with your true nature or returning to your authentic self. However, while this experience is indescribably beautiful, it can also be terrifying for those unaware of the spiritual path or who resist the truth. Those who experience the death of the ego often fall into two categories: those who find enlightenment and those who suffer deeply. Some oscillate between both states. The death of the ego may evoke fear as it threatens the ego's ultimate loss of the self, even if momentarily. As a defense mechanism, the ego creates intense fear. Yet, to progress spiritually, we must understand this fear's role, acknowledge it, and not let it hold us back. The 7 stages of the ego's death. The death of the ego unfolds in stages. By courageously following them, you may reach experiences of nirvana, oneness, or enlightenment. While not a formula or linear process, these stages often follow this trajectory, overlapping rather than standing alone. Stage 1. Spiritual awakening. In the first stage of ego death, we begin to wake up to life. Our spiritual awakening can also be triggered by a life crisis, tragedy, illness, or simply the natural process of spiritual growth. When we experience a spiritual awakening, we begin to search deeper into life. Often we will ask big questions like, what is my purpose? What is the meaning of life? And what happens after death? Spiritual awakening is triggered by a deep feeling that something is missing in life, and it is often accompanied by feelings of anxiety or depression. Stage 2. The dark night of the soul. The dark night of the soul is inseparable from the process of spiritual awakening. When we experience the dark night of the soul, we become hyper-aware of our separation from ourselves, others, and the divine. The dark night of the soul is a time when we feel completely lost, alone, and isolated from others. It is the ultimate accumulation of suffering within us. Deep down, we know something needs to change drastically in our lives, but we don't know what to do or from where. Stage 3. The spiritual seeker. After experiencing spiritual awakening and the dark night, we enter the spiritual path. We explore various practices like meditation, Reiki, yoga, astrology, and mysticism, seeking relief from our inner suffering. Stage 4. Temporary enlightenment. This is a glimpse of your true nature, a moment when your ego dissolves entirely. For some, it is terrifying and spiritual growth halts. For others, it is profoundly transformative. Stage 5. The elder soul. Over time, we develop clarity and spiritual insight. We recognize the cycles of pain, fear, and division and learn methods to grow closer to the divine. We cultivate discipline, patience, and focus. Stage 6. Disintegration and release. At this stage, we surrender everything we are not. We understand that letting go is essential for inviting light. Grace, discipline, trust, courage, non-attachment, and love are key elements. Stage 7. The end of seeking. Finally, we stop seeking. We realize everything we are and need is already here. The search to become something, to lose something, to find something, and to achieve something all become meaningless. We see through the illusions of seeking truth, joy, peace, and love from anywhere outside. We see the truth that we are reflected in all people and things. While the self still exists, we are aware that the ego is like a tool, not our truth. Overcoming duality and the grip of the ego, we develop an unconditional love and acceptance of all things. This is the state of peace, freedom, and what people call enlightenment. But those who have experienced this know that there is no label or mental structure that can encapsulate or express this, describe this experience. Ego death is a sobering experience, a catharsis, profound and stunning. It is so profound and surpasses anything we have ever experienced in this life. It changes your perception of existence in just a moment. In the book The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, death is a stripping away of all that is not you. The secret of life is to die before death finds you, and see that there is no death at all. If you find this video valuable, please like and subscribe to Mflow. Thank you.